What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Zuniga Films Podcast. In this episode, I have with me Nainoa Langer. He's a filmmaker and storyteller. He shares how he went from quitting his job to pursue filmmaking and now travels the world following his stoke, creating videos for companies and artists such as Beautiful Destinations, Zedd, Illenium, and many more. So without further ado, Nainoa Langer. Thanks for joining me, Nainoa. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to share your story, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening right now will hopefully benefit from what you have to say.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Stoked to talk. Yeah.
So I want to just start out by asking, what's your story? Were you always into making videos and film? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah. Well, to give, I guess, the condensed version of, my story with film anyway. I grew up on Molokai, which is, it's a really very tiny island here in Hawaii. And pretty much up until high school, I had kind of zero idea what I wanted to do at all.
Yeah.
Kind of still don't, but I've been lucky enough to find a path in filmmaking. But I really just went through, I guess, the earliest years of my life kind of not knowing what I was doing. So I went over to Oahu, went to community college and did the whole, go to school and figure out what you want to do thing.
Right.
And photography, video was never kind of part of my story up until I was about 21. I'm 25 now. So I went maybe 3 years after high school of just working random jobs and going to school, but not really having any passion, not finding anything worthwhile that I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I worked at a hospital actually right out of high school for about 3 years, just doing surgical sterilization and, kind of just, grunt work, a job. It was a job for me. It was at that point when I actually got introduced to a GoPro from a friend. So that was my first camera. And that was like the first type of hit that I had of photography and videography. Because we grew up, growing up here in Hawaii is the most naturally, beautiful place that I've been. I love it. And to be able to just go out in my backyard and just film, amazing stuff. It was a very just new experience for me. And I loved doing it. This was at a point where Instagram was very, kind of like on the rise, where this GoPro trend started to pick up, and you start seeing GoPro selfies and all these GoPro edits. And that was like, I was part of that group, I guess.
Yeah. What year was this again? It was like 2012?
This was like 2000, I want to say like 2015.
Yeah.
14, 15.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It like kind of peaked up over there. And so I was lucky enough that I kind of got a decent amount of attention from it. I was kind of like on the higher tier of like the GoPro thing. And with Hawaii, it was like, I owed a lot to just like where I was. So I got super lucky on that, but it led me to, discovering a passion for creating film and video. And so from there, it just, I guess it just evolved and it expanded and it grew. And, about a year, I think, after I actually got the GoPro is when I decided to quit my job at Queens and just like, I decided, hey, if I love this and like I actually got really good feelings from it, I wanted to, just make it what I wanted to do full time. And I had this idea of just, turning that into what I spent all my time doing. And from there, it just kind of progressed, and I've been able to, do a lot of opportunities travel wise. I feel like that's, I guess, my main niche now and what I'm focusing on. But it's totally just like expanded and changed my life, and just I get to wake up and do what I love to do every day now. So it's pretty cool. That's kind of, I guess, the condensed version overall.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, some challenges that you had to face along the way. What was like one challenge that you faced? Because I know a lot of people that I talk to, especially the ones that are just starting out in filming, they may be just coming out of college or they're at a job, but they have that kind of like pull of filming that they want to do and create videos. Yeah. But you took that leap to quit your job and follow what you want to do. So like, what was one challenge or one hurdle that you had to get over during that time?
Yeah, I think well, if I try to put myself back in, I guess, in those feelings of what it was, because that was about 2.5 years ago, I want to say now. Um, it's scary. I mean, honestly, it's like for a lot of people, what they're doing now, most of the time you can get really comfortable if you've been doing it for a little while, or, if it provides you with a safety net of like financial or, whatever type of resource that might be. And for me, that was my job. That was how I made a living. That was how I was paying the bills. That was how I was eating. And with this whole idea of giving that up to find, or to like, just to do something that's totally not stable. I mean, just like, it's a completely, value based type of, I guess, career where you're earning, just solely off of how much work you put in and the opportunities that come your way.
Right.
So that idea of giving up that stability was absolutely nerve wracking and just totally terrifying to me. And so I think that's why I pushed it back for about a year. And it takes a while. And so that was a challenge for me. It was just kind of really convincing myself and I guess believing in what I could do before I really, made that leap. A lot of the time I treat it, and I guess I feel like I've treated it like a lot of the things I've done in my life anyway. So I related a lot to like cliff jumping or, doing the things that you're right on the edge of doing and it's not going to be comfortable, but once you do it, it's going to be, you're going to feel amazing afterwards. And so that's exactly how it was for me. As soon as I gave my 2-week notice, it was just like all this weight came right off. And I feel like, a lot of the challenges that we go through, even later on in the career of filmmaking, whether it's, hard drive failing or something like that, it's just, you work through it all and it all kind of plays out the way it's supposed to. And those are, I guess, I mean, there's challenges in so many of the things that we do, but
that's true.
The big one was just making that leap. I'm so glad I did. And for anyone who's listening, I mean, if you feel that pull, like that's what the whole idea with follow your stoke is, is doing those things that you feel pulled to do.
Yeah, that holds some truth in what you said for sure. So backtracking just a little bit, you said you didn't go to film school. Is that correct?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all.
How do you think that benefited in what you shoot, like in your style, for example?
Yeah. Well, I think, and I don't really mean to, I guess I could be completely just spitballing here, but film school, I feel maybe taught a lot of the traditional ways or just the way that things have already been done, possibly. I feel like I've never actually really thought about this, but not having that type of background has really like made anything kind of fair game. It's like there's not this structured type of, maybe I don't know how to say it, like guidelines of what we're creating to tell you what to create or how to create it. And so I feel like not having that background and being self-taught and just being able to look at other inspiration from, other creators is huge, and it keeps you kind of just always being fresh or, finding creativity in as many ways as you possibly can. One way for me personally is I've started messing with music because of actually starting to get into film and being able to put those things together. I don't know if film school may have, had a little dent on that or not, if I did go, but yeah, I've always felt like there was this creative side that just wanted to be expressed. So if I could go back, maybe I'd go to film school, but right now I'm all right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the type of person. I mean, there's benefits and drawbacks for both going to film school
100%.
and not going to film school.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I've known a lot of people that went to film school and the connections they made there allowed them to really progress. And
definitely
the ones that didn't, it's up to the person, how far they want to go. Completely.
And there also, I feel like, different paths in the whole creative space. If you ask me to direct a Hollywood movie or something, there's no possible way. But someone who went to film school or like has that experience, then, that's 100% beneficial to them. But yeah, in this type of, I guess, YouTuber type of, social creator, type of, genre that we're in, it's, yeah, you've been able to learn off of YouTube, and we learn just by doing. So it's been kind of interesting.
Yeah, YouTube, man, that has been a great teacher for film for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it really
crazy.
helped a lot.
Even all of the really cool thing is I've been getting into too is these master classes. Like I think Martin Scorsese, like a lot of
Oh
big
yeah,
filmmakers, and even composers like Hans Zimmer has a master class. They're just these kind of
I think I seen
uh
those ads. It was like,
yeah,
yeah, like they have like Dead Mouse
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
there, and then other actors like Samuel L. Jackson.
They're really, really cool. I guess insightful more than, knowledge and really like teaching how to do something,
Hmm.
but they get you, right in front of, the masters of their genre,
Hmm.
and just, kind of opening up and sharing things with you. So that's another, way that I've learned a lot too.
Hmm.
It's been pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So I want to kind of dive into Stoke Life and Follow Your Stoke,
Yeah.
because that is what you're all about. That's your tagline and what you
Yeah.
always place in all your videos. So, can you describe what that means to you and why you decided to start the Stoke Life series?
Yeah. Well, I guess I kind of touched on it. Just with my story, the whole idea of follow your stoke, it came about from, those feelings of being called to do something and being stuck in a situation that, really wasn't fulfilling me or
Mhm.
making me happy with life. So follow your stoke, to me really is just kind of everything that I've tried to embody with what I do and who I am. And yeah, I feel like I've always been pretty intuitive with the things that come my way, and
Mhm.
just the everything in my life. And so whatever I've been pulled to do, um I'll always kind of trust my gut. And a lot of the times, sometimes it doesn't mean whether it's the best decision financially or like for, other aspects of my life, but I know it's what's going to fulfill me. And so that's what follow your stoke is. And, you know, being able to use that as kind of a, I guess, guiding way throughout my journey has
Mhm.
been, I've always known that, it's going to work out because I know it's what I'm doing is right for myself and feels good to me. And so Stoke Life was just kind of, I guess, in a way, portraying all those cool moments that, made me happy and got me really stoked to be alive. A lot of the inspiration behind it was from people like Roy Kramer,
Mhm.
that really kind of pioneered, I guess, those type of YouTube, really hit flashy, type of edits that,
Like adventure style
yeah,
videos. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so for me, it was just like my take on what I wanted to do with my life, and luckily that's been able to progress and just take me to places around the world, and that's kind of what I wanted, I guess, out of it in the first place.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's what Stoke Life is for me now. It's kind of segueing into a bit more of a type of brand, but not really, but something I definitely associate pretty much everything that I am with, and
Mhm.
really try to just embody that in as many ways that I can.
Yeah. So basically, from what I got out of what you said, you took what you enjoyed the most in life, and that's what you decided to film and create a series on YouTube. Were those, because I remember I saw the first time I kind of like learned about you was the first video of your Stoke Life series, and actually the one clip that I liked the most was with the lighthouse where it spins around the lighthouse
Nice.
and then
Yeah.
it spins. I was like, oh, that is awesome. That is so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that
It's
was like
been
way back. When did you
That's the thing.
do
I
that?
think it was about like it's got to be almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like I haven't looked back on any of that for so long now, and so to mention that whole hyperlapse, like
Uh huh.
that was actually probably like the first hyperlapse I've ever done.
Really?
Um, and that was about 2 years ago. But
How did you do that? Was the ground level around the
no,
lighthouse?
not at
No.
all. So the
Okay.
thing, so there was the weird. So that was Makapu'u Lighthouse on Oahu.
Hmm.
The way it's designed, it's kind of just like on this point. So there's enough walkway around it, maybe like 10 or 15 feet. So it was very angled up.
Mm.
But there were rocks and like big, like little mounds along the way of dirt and stuff that I kind of just had to go over. So I tried to compensate. I do all my hyperlapses handheld. I compensated by like moving them up and down and like trying to keep it where I thought was level, and it somehow turned out okay.
Wow. But you just basically find one point on the lighthouse and then you just try to focus around that. And then did you do any stabilization in post?
Yeah. There was a bit of stabilization that happened. Especially, I mean, with handheld, you're never completely on it all the time.
Yeah.
So what really helps out. But then I think, when I aimed, I made sure that when I was going around, I was able to point at somewhere in the same area. Okay. So I aimed for like the middle of it. So when you're going around, you're not going to be able to see that same spot in the middle. Yeah. But just kind of keeping that, I guess, aiming point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out great. So
it's good times. Awesome. Holy, thanks for the nostalgia.
Yeah, of course, man. So kind of piggybacking off of that, was that the first video, like actual video that you kind of created, or was there videos before that you started? So
prior to that, I'd done, I think, about 3 Fall Your Stoke kind of recap videos, which were those big, highlights of like the adventures that I'd done throughout the first few months or so. But those Stoke Life videos were actually the first ones where I was a character, I guess, or like where I was speaking and I had that vlog type of, I guess, thing going with it. Before all of that, I was doing these back when Instagram was 15 seconds long, I was doing these 15 seconds GoPro edits that would turn into like 2-3 minute YouTube videos. And it was a lot. I mean, so much more grassroots and so less complicated back then. You could just make things and push it out, and it was fun, and it wasn't a career, which I'm really happy for now. But all the videos prior to that was just pure fun, and it was pure, adventure and what I love to do, and I still love to do. But
that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
So were you filming with the GoPro majority of the time for those films? Or because I think I saw you with like a Canon. Was it a Canon DSLR?
Yeah, I had a GoPro for probably like the first year to a year and a half of when I was actually making things. The first camera I actually bought was a 5D Mark II, which I was not really aware, like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I ended up actually selling it like 2 months later because I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I just stuck with the GoPro again for like 6 more months.
Wow.
And then my first actual real camera that I started creating with was a GH4 Panasonic.
Oh, love that one. Yep.
Yeah, so that was my work piece. I still got it and it still works. It's crazy.
Dude, I still use mine too. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good second cameras.
Yeah. I mean, if only it kind of had really good low light, but
Yeah. It's still, I mean, it still kind of does a decent job.
Yeah, it does. So,
yeah. And those are the original. I mean, it's like I said, so that's all the equipment that I had was just the GoPro and the GH4. Maybe I think I had an 18-35, the Sigma lens on that. That was like the big combination back then. Yeah. But now I shoot with a 1DX and I've got 5 different lenses, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you progress. You start learning from a simple camera, and then over time you progress and get better cameras. So that's why I wanted to ask you. First question: a lot of people say, "Oh, you got to get the best gear. It's all about the gear." But you made it work with just the GoPro starting out. So how did working with a simple camera like the GoPro really help your creativity as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I know exactly what you're referring to when people kind of talk about that, and they say they want to get into filmmaking, they want to get into video production. Um, and then for me, I feel like I went a very different path than that. The GoPro, I didn't come off of it, or I didn't come into it with the idea of I want to be a good filmmaker. The GoPro instilled it into me is like, you can be,
Mm.
a good, creator someday or something. So I think when I got my GoPro, it was just for the fun of it. And um, I knew that progressing, I'd need to, expand it. But when just starting out, it's like, just as long as you can create with something, whatever it is that you have. I mean, I've seen some amazing things produced on just a phone, actually.
Yeah.
And I was actually, right before we were watching this, I was watching a documentary film entirely on an iPhone.
Oh,
And
really?
it's amazing. It's called Wasfia by Sean Kusanagi.
Uh-huh.
And shot entirely on a phone, and it tripped me out. It was just such a good storytelling. I think the stigma behind getting into filmmaking and everything is that you need the best equipment, you need to have everything, the best of the best going into it,
Hmm.
when that's completely not true. um and yeah, the GoPro, I mean, it instilled in me the creative spark that I feel like you need if you want to get into this.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't matter what camera does that for you, but yeah, you can make it happen with your phone. The cameras that are on your iPhones are just amazing these days. So is that I think the path that we're kind of on requires, expansion of your equipment and your arsenal, but that comes in time. Um, so I think it doesn't matter, not at all.
Hmm.
Whatever you have, create with what you have. The cliche, no, not cliche, it's a true statement, but is, the best camera is the camera that you have with you. So
Right. So,
yeah,
speaking of story, um, what do you think goes into a good story for video?
that is a lot. I mean, that's a loaded question. I feel like
Mhm.
there's so many different styles,
Right.
of creation, or just like video production in general, where this very Western type of storytelling has, the arc, which is,
Hmm.
you have the highs, and then some kind of problem happens where, your character, whoever, has to come back up, and you're telling a story of, some kind of drama that comes through,
Right.
as opposed to, some kind of Eastern anime type of videos where it's just like a completely kind of just hodgepodge of beautiful scenery with a compelling story. Like,
Yeah.
all storytelling, I feel like, needs to have just something that can connect with whoever's watching it. Doesn't necessarily have to have some kind of problem or any kind of presented, um, you know, just yeah, problem. Um, but if your viewer can connect with whatever it is that they're watching, whether it's emotionally or physically, or somehow, draws an emotion
Hmm.
or feeling out of them, a
Hmm.
reaction,
Hmm.
then that, in a sense, is, being able to tell a story.
Right.
um a big push for me recently has been wanting to get into a more documentary type of, I guess, like storytelling genre. And what I'm doing now, tying that into, the passion that I have for travel now, and the type of editing that I do. Um and so a lot of the time, what that looks like for me is this stories of real events, or real type of, um, I guess, things that are happening with, the subject that I want to document. So even with these episodes that I kind of talked about a little earlier, we're documenting the history and the culture of Hawaii as our first episode. And that's included interviewing, several people, um, talking about their story and their past, and
Hmm.
um, just like their ideas moving forward. And so storytelling can range from, these narratives, or these type of, voiceovers that tell a story, like, generally,
Hmm.
or be completely creative and storyboarded with directing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I really liked the one you did it was with Beautiful Destinations, but it was behind the handle with your friend Sam.
Yeah.
Captain Potter for all those that are listening. But I liked how you really added the narration in there, but it flowed to where you were following him as he kind of went through the land, and he was under the waterfall, and it for me it made me feel like I was with him in person, and really he was telling me the story in person. And I like how that was shot and put together.
Yeah, thank you. That was really the first one of the first, I guess, like, well, it's still one of the proudest pieces I've done, but it was like that first kind of introduction to documentary type of I guess hybrid with these travel videos. So visually, I think that's the goal I wanted to do now, is to still create that depth of more than just visually pleasing shots and these adventure type of things, but telling some kind of story of a person or of a place that just adds more layers to the overall product.
Yeah.
So that was fun to work with Sam. Yeah.
What island was that?
So that was on Kauai, which is
Okay.
where I'm at now. And yeah, I think actually what's blossomed from that is this whole new series that we're getting into with Beautiful Destinations. And we saw how well we worked together on that. And Sam's just such a, in front of camera person that can write so well. He's got such, good energy and ideas in him that just, we found a good dynamic that I can kind of portray it a little bit, but he's still a good, the main, I guess, like direction of it all. And it's exciting moving forward. I'm excited for all of the things that are coming too with it.
Nice. So speaking of Beautiful Destinations, was that the first main, or I would say bigger company that you started creating videos for? So from where you started creating videos for yourself to starting to work with a company like Beautiful Destinations, can you go through that process and how that kind of flourished?
Yeah, so the entire, I mean, pretty much up until I started working with BD, I was just doing what I was doing. It was those, YouTube Stoke Lifes, the Fall Your Stoke videos where, I was just kind of showcasing what I could do, or like what I wanted to be doing. Luckily enough, I mean, that kind of fit in line with what Beautiful Destinations is doing and was doing at the time. So I knew Sam Colder before, or I mean, like right as he got into BD also. And so we've been connected for about a year prior to that, but up until, I guess, from prior to BD, I was just still doing, these, the Stoke Life and the Follow Your Stoke videos, and I was uploading to YouTube. That kind of just showed, what I could do, I guess, in an editing type of sense. And I was, living a freelance type of lifestyle where I was shooting kind of these random jobs just to get by. So that ranged from like weddings and real estate things. And I knew that I always made time I knew I always wanted to make time, for these creative type of projects that I wanted to do, which were, the Follow Your Stoke and Stoke Life videos. At the time when BD reached out to me, Sam Colder had just started working for them. And I'd been connected with him for about a year prior to that. We hung out in Hawaii when he did his first like Hawaii video that, kind of went viral. And so from there, we kind of just always kept in touch. And I think we've always been fans of each other's work and everything. So he reached out to me when he got connected with them and, just said that he was the only video guy there and he needed some help doing it. So I was like, you know what, this is exactly what I've wanted to do with it, you know, and it took me to seeing the world and being able to travel with the BD team. And I kind of owe a lot to Sam. He's been a big inspiration too, and kind of paved the way for us.
Nice. So did they reach out to you first?
Yeah.
To start off?
Through Sam. Yeah.
Through Sam.
So through Sam, he showed Tom and Jeremy, the owners of BD, it was my work, and they took me on a trip for the first time for my first time out of the country, they just, 2 weeks in, they reached out and were like, hey, come out to New York,
Hmm.
come do a little bit of work. And then they took me out of the country to kind of give me a test run
Sure.
of creating. And yeah, that same trip, I got offered to be a full-time employee and full-time traveling content creator for them. I did that for about a year and a half.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, kind of backtracking a little bit, um, for those people that are creating videos on YouTube, for example,
Hmm.
and they may feel like, they're getting stuck in a rut, or they may ask themselves, am I going the right direction?
Hmm.
And they're probably not seeing any traction.
Hmm.
For you, did you experience that earlier on when you started making those videos?
Yeah, to a degree. I was actually kind of lucky because I had a little bit of an established Instagram presence. Um, and that was through the GoPro, videos and all of this kind of exposure that I got from that.
Hmm.
So when I segued into, creating these kind of more filmic videos with, bigger cameras and type of bigger edits,
Hmm.
I kind of had something, a little bit of, an audience going already, which in turn, kind of led to other people seeing my work and these opportunities kind of just coming my way. Um, but in the beginning, I never really felt that. No, it wasn't. I think because I never went into it with the goal of like, I want to be big or I want to be something,
Hmm.
or I knew that this was something that I wanted to keep doing. And I knew that inevitably, if I keep doing it, there's no way that I'm not going to grow. So my whole, I guess, idea with everything wasn't this. I mean, trust me, there were like some very, very stagnant times, like
Yeah.
of just, where I was just not knowing what I was doing with anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I knew that I wanted to create. And so like that idea of just doing things new and different, and there was never a shortage of creativity to be had. I knew that if I just kept doing that, I'd still be happy no matter what. Um, and I think that reciprocated, which I think always does with, just an audience and people that connect with that idea. People will see your work no matter what. So regardless of if you're going through a tough spell now, keep doing it. If you truly love it and if you truly love the process of it,
Hmm.
then that inevitably is going to take you places. I think that was another thing that I've been told was, fall in love with the process, not the result of everything, because it's the process that's, everything. And so if you actually love filmmaking, you actually love doing it and creating it and having a final product, it doesn't matter what happens at the end of it. It doesn't matter who sees it, but you did it for yourself and because you actually genuinely are passionate for it. Um, Falling in love with the process is huge. And I honestly believe inevitably, like there's no possible way that you won't, have opportunity come your way if you just keep doing it. Um, so I think what's really important is to ask yourself why you're doing it in the first place. What's the purpose behind it? And um, from there, that's where you'll start to see fulfillment in not just one way, but financially and internally. Yeah, there's so much more depth to it than just making videos and being known. So
Right. Because
that's my take.
you didn't have in mind when you first started making those videos, you're like, okay, I want to be on beautiful destinations. I want to work with these big name artists and go on tour with them.
No.
You basically just did what you love to do
Hmm.
to the best of your ability,
Hmm.
and there was an audience that eventually followed and really enjoyed what you had to make. You
Yeah,
know, and
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
nailed it. I think there was a little bit of degree of like goals of like what I wanted to
sure,
do, but they're very much more experiential because of what I wanted to prove to myself almost. Like
hmm.
I know that I want to work with, very influential, I guess, people or companies, but that's not why I'm doing it. The
Yeah,
why was way more powerful than the result. And so yeah, that's how it kind of played out in the beginning. Still does.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you have to start somewhere, at least have some
yeah,
structure in where you're going, right? But for the most
definitely.
part, it still has to be, it has to be coming from somewhere that makes you happy personally.
Yes, hundred
Yeah.
percent, hundred
Yeah.
percent.
So, kind of following up with the beautiful destinations, now currently I've seen you go on tour with these awesome artists like Illenium, Odessa. Did you go on tour with Zedd as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I did a few projects actually with Zed. That was actually through Beautiful Destinations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we did several projects with him and his team, and that was actually he was my first bigger artist that I got to work with before Illenium, before Odessa.
Hmm.
Yeah, great people. It's really fun it was a good kind of just eye-opening experience too.
Oh, for sure. I,
Yeah, yeah.
I bet. So when it comes to going on tour and filming for these artists, because I'm sure there's some people out there that are wondering, okay, how can I go and start filming, for concerts, start filming for these artists backstage? What are some pieces of advice or tips that you have for those that want to get into that space?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think honestly, like when you have the desire to want to do something that, you need to break into, for example, like you said, these festivals or like working with these DJs or going on tour, you kind of got to show what you're made of at first. So I remember personally, even actually before any of like the Zedd stuff or bigger artists, I remember back when I was living on Oahu, I shot a club once
Was
with
that part of your Stoke Life series?
yeah. It was with the
Yeah,
Chainsmokers.
that's what it was. Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So I bet this was like Chainsmokers pre Closer.
Yeah,
So
pre
still, I mean,
roses.
still pretty big, but
Yeah.
not, huge for what they are now.
Hmm.
Um, and I think a lot of the inspiration came from, like I said, Rory Kramer, who, was shooting with the Chainsmokers at the time.
Hmm.
So I was actually lucky enough, that I got to hang out with him, and like I reached out, I saw Rory was coming, so we got to chill for the day. I covered all of that in the Stoke Life, and then at night we went to go shoot the Chainsmokers, which was like super fun. And so I think that was just like an opportunity to get in front of a musical artist and like actually be able to capture things. So a piece of advice I could give to anyone wanting to get into the music industry and being able to film artists is just getting that experience under your belt, or just getting like a few shows. You have to do them for free, whether it's paid or not. It's just showing what you can do, having that as a resume. You as a filmmaker, your resume are your videos. It is your work.
Hmm. So,
really it's just getting in front of the content, doing your best work as you possibly can, and keep at it. For me, I've been on tour with Illenium recently for the past few months, and that's actually a consistent thing where, I get to, create these series of videos for them consistently. To get to that point, I mean, you got to get, work under your belt. That's the name of the game, is everything that you have to show for yourself is what you can get out of it.
mm-hmm.
Not sure if that made sense, but
That makes total sense. Yeah. Because some people that are just starting out and doing video, they kind of think about what are they going to get out of it first. Like, what's the pay? What's all that? But the reality is, if you really want to put yourself out there and, really get to the next level of where you want to be, sometimes, actually a lot of times, it takes starting out doing stuff for free, even getting like a press pass just for a concert, just so you can be there and capture some footage or whatnot. And then from there, it's just building your portfolio, because it has to start with a portfolio, or else no one is going to know your capabilities unless you have that to show, right?
Yeah. And a lot of the time it takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight, and not the best opportunities don't just come to you as quickly as you want them to most of the time. But it's just getting as much experience, as much work under your belt as you can, and eventually when you reach out to people, you'll have stuff to show them, and there's no way that they can say no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So, in terms of gear, I know we're kind of backtracking in terms of gear,
No worries.
but for you, starting with the GoPro, and then now you're working with like the 1DX and the multiple lenses, what is your tips in terms of when to know to upgrade,
Mm.
what gear to get?
In terms of expanding and growing, I think it's very situational. Um, for me, even now to this day, GoPros kind of get the job done sometimes, it's mostly when it's underwater,
Yeah.
or, in very rugged situations. But I think I treated it very situationally at first when I knew that a GoPro wasn't going to cut, what I needed to get done. Um, I also didn't think ahead of like, oh, well, in a year's time, I'm going to need all this kind of stuff. I just kind of thought about, what's going to benefit me now and for the immediate future. Um, and from there, I kind of gauge I guess, how valuable the investments that I make, how are they going to benefit me now? What can I do with them now? And what can I create? So if you're thinking for people that want to expand or like improve and upgrade their equipment, just ask, is it worth it at the moment for everything that you're doing or what you want to get to into in the immediate future, or the opportunities that you have?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have already what's going to get the job done?
Mm-hmm.
And will this prepare me, or will this push my game forward? And a lot of the times you can kind of get away with what you have now, unless it's just this big client or big budget type of projects.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be surprised with what can get the job done.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, they came out with
Yeah.
like the 7, didn't they?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
GoPro
Actually,
recently?
I got one here.
Nice.
They sent one out like when it launched, but I think they're still pre-order right now, right?
Still pre-order, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a perfect example. I mean, GoPro's still completely invading all the things that they do. A lot of people have, I mean, these very mixed kind of, I guess, thoughts towards GoPro.
Mm-hmm.
But still, for a company to be around for the past 10 years and be completely relevant and still kind of a part of everyone's arsenal is huge.
Yeah.
I think every single filmmaker I know has a GoPro.
Mm-hmm.
Like my family members have GoPros. They don't even do film.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so small, put it in your pocket, and I mean, the quality now is just getting better with GoPro, and they have the stabilization with
the
the 7.
4K 60 works really well. The stabilization on this, I haven't gotten to test it out just yet.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually wanting to just go out and run around on some ridges and
Mm-hmm.
see how well it works. But yeah, I'm excited to try it out. I think it's definitely going to be a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, based from the footage on YouTube, I thought they were on a gimbal, but it wasn't.
Crazy.
It was built in. I was like, wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
But now I want to go into just like the types of work that you're doing currently, but kind of backtrack a little bit to, because I know you mentioned weddings. And when you're starting out as a filmmaker, for the most part, you have to balance your passion projects and still getting paid at the same time, correct?
Yeah.
So what were some earlier projects that you did to get money flowing in as you were creating?
Oh man, this is going back in the freelancing days.
Yeah.
To be completely, and just like, I'll be fully transparent here, when I quit my job at Queens to go as a freelance like videographer, it was kind of tough scrapings. Like I would do, like you said, weddings, a couple projects. I actually worked with a vape company, and these were things that, like you said, were just kind of just to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that I didn't enjoy doing them, because again, it was fun to create and it was fun to film and it was fun for me to edit and I loved it. The content in it just wasn't what I was completely passionate about. But I was doing little brand deals. I was still kind of like, I had this Instagram thing going, so I would work out these influencer deals that would pay little.
Mm-hmm.
It was really just kind of random odd jobs. I did some real estate stuff. But again, I think I mentioned it. I always made time to go and adventure and like balance out that passion with making money and everything. And I think for me, I also wasn't money driven. I think I would do enough to just kind of get by,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'd live okay. Like I have enough to be comfortable right now, get everything paid for, but I don't need any more. Like
Yeah.
if I can, I'd much rather have a week off getting to film an adventure and go camping and like film that than making an extra 2 grand that week and filming other stuff. So I would basically just do the required amount
Yeah.
for living
Uh-huh.
and then put everything towards the passion projects. Um, Luckily now, the passion projects have turned into that main source of budget. So like it's been able to, I've been able to make that, I guess, transition or that leap to working out budgets for the things that I want to do and the things that I want to create. Of course, in line with these people that I work with. But um, yeah, there's a little threshold that you kind of have to, I guess, push through in terms of, working out things that, can provide for your livelihood, working on those projects and balancing the passion. But I think it's always important to put the passion pretty high up in your priority list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Do you remember that turning point where you were doing those, projects just to get by and get some money in, to where you're finally doing projects that align with your passion?
Yeah. It wasn't a set point. I can say that for now. It was over the course probably of the last year or year and a half. Um, a lot of it was actually, I owe to Beautiful Destinations. They kind of bridge that gap of, I get to make full time my travel passion into, my livelihood, and I was getting paid. And um, that was a huge step for me. And then once stepping back from that to the point where now I have, Beautiful Destinations provided so much for my portfolio
Mhm.
that um, now, I have so much to show for my work. And I'm actually still working with them, for this next contracted series. But, you know, I have all of this stuff to show for these passion projects that I want to do going forward. Um, it's all just a learning curve. You build up your portfolio and what you're capable of doing, and um, it kind of just comes to you. I feel like it was, but yeah, it definitely took, you know, a year and a half. It's not the same for everyone, but been lucky enough to be where I am now. Yeah.
So those projects that you're doing now, you're traveling a lot.
Hmm.
What has been, like the biggest challenge that you face while you're traveling and filming?
It's just being away from everything. I think that was again, like we said, first it was balancing the money projects and the passion projects. Now it's balancing all my projects with my personal life
Mhm.
because it's kind of consumed, so much of my time and my passion. It's finding the time of when I can, kind of tune out and get to spend time with the people that I love and the places that I love to be. Um, that's the real challenge. So I've been, traveling for months on end, and being gone for so long kind of takes a toll on, strains back home and stuff. So I've been really lucky in terms of having, a girlfriend and family and friends that are totally understanding and so supportive. Um, but it's my life now, and I love to do it, and they know that I love to do it. So that kind of makes everyone happy. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, but it's all about balance for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
Was there any challenges that you face while filming? Any something happened? Maybe, you didn't get the exact shot you wanted, or the weather didn't turn out like as you wanted, and how did you get through that? If you have like some sort of
Yeah.
story you like to share.
Let me try to think of an example. Um, well, I mean, I guess the most recent example was our first episode that we filmed. about a month ago, where we had our hard drive crash on us.
Mhm.
So pretty much all of our, content from the first week and a half to 2 weeks of filming was just inaccessible.
Uh-huh.
So that was a huge challenge, a huge struggle, and it's kind of pushed us back, but it was an easy fix. We got to get all of our, content recovered. I'm trying to think of a more situational one where, like a camera wasn't working or something, or how we had to adapt on the fly.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've had tons of drones crash. I
Really?
mean, those are the most common ones,
Uh-huh.
like the drone. I lost one in Dubai once, crashed it into the side of a mountain.
Oh, at least
Uh,
it wasn't one of the buildings.
no, yeah, that would have been.
Oh.
I've never droned in the city before.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's very, very risky, very
Yeah,
ballsy.
very risky business when you do that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, trying to think of what else. I've had water housings kind of crap out.
Oh man.
Not enough to the point where like it ruins any footage, but um like where buttons don't work, or like things aren't aligning and we're out in the middle of the ocean. Actually, and that was another dude, so much went wrong on this first episode. So here's another thing that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
So part of the episode we went manta ray diving. So we dove with manta rays off the coast of Kona in Hawaii.
Mhm.
Um and so we're not that far off, but we're definitely about half an hour out from any kind of civilization or anything.
Uh-huh.
And we brought this water housing for the 1DX out with us. um, and so we get it in, we set everything up correctly, and it's actually it was the wrong housing. Is for the 1DX Mark 1 instead of the Mark 2. The only difference between it is the start and stop button is 2 or like 3 millimeters off. So
Oh
the button
man.
on the housing didn't line up with that start, stop, record button. And it was it was like a total slap in the face. And we're like, how did we miss this? And so, I mean, we worked around it. We had to start recording before we put it in the housing. And so we just did
Oh,
all of
okay.
it going through, and we got this big 15-minute file. And it was amazing footage. It's so worth it. But
Yeah.
just like that, such a, it's just like a almost defeating us kind of
Mhm.
thing. But
But you got the shot.
Oh, we got some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. And it's all at night. So
Oh,
the way
okay.
the way these manta dives happen is they're attracted to the krill, or some type of
Mhm.
plankton that gets attracted to these lights. So pitch black in the water, and all you see are these big just beams of light coming out from these high voltage flashlights.
Mhm.
And just swooping by are these huge 15-foot manta rays that just glide through the water. It's one of the coolest things ever. So the footage was just, I mean, I would have gladly just like sank my camera for it, and just to shoot that stuff. It was really
Uh-huh.
cool. Yeah.
Wow. So like was that like the I don't think that was the closest you've been to like those types of animals, like because they're huge, right? Those
Yeah,
manta rays can get
they're
big.
massive.
Was
Mhm.
there another situation where you were like really close to nature in that sense?
Oh man, in the Philippines, whale sharks,
Yeah.
no joke,
How was that?
are huge. They're just like, well, the whale sharks that we were around are just massive. And so, but they're completely docile.
Mhm.
Like they don't attack, and they're completely not dangerous.
Mhm.
But yeah, just being up next to a huge creature, like there was multiple instances where it just like goes right past my face, and it's like startling
Uh-huh.
because they're, I don't know how big,
It's like the size of
30,
a
40
bus or
feet long.
something.
Yeah, they're huge. Um, but that stuff just really makes you feel like, puts you in perspective. Like, you're so tiny compared to these things. Like,
Uh-huh.
the experience is just amazing. And I think moving forward, like I want to like dive with whales, because they do that off the coast of like Tonga and Fiji. Those are some of the experiences I still want to, kind of get to feel and see. Or even just like natural beauty, where it's these giant cliffs. Like I am totally in love with feeling small
Mhm.
to nature. It makes you so much more humble.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely
yeah.
does. what's the one place that you haven't gone to yet but want to film?
Ooh, um, off the top of my head, it would be Nepal or Cambodia or some type of in that region, some type of country there. Just because I think it's completely different from anything I've ever done or shot or seen. And there's so much, you know, different, I guess, stories to be told, and it's a very like opening type of place, and so that's what I'm all about. And I want to expand, my experiences and see new things. And I know a lot of people can kind of connect with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, they have. I mean, in Nepal specifically, I mean, you got the Himalayas,
Hmm.
and the people there, you know, they're just a different breed there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy. I think
completely.
Did Sam create a video?
He
He
did.
was there
Yeah,
recently. Oh no,
he
recently, but
was.
he did.
I think in the beginning of this year, yeah, he was in Nepal and did a great piece on it. He just, documented his time there. He hiked to Annapurna, which is, I guess, a mountain range in the Himalayas or somewhere in Nepal. I'm kind of just spitballing.
It's in that area.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just his experience with a really good organization there called Raksha, which were protecting these underage girls from sex trafficking, and
Mm.
all the problems that happen in that side of the world. Um, so that's really, I mean, there's so much, depth to these countries, and that's really what I'm looking for these days. Is what's gonna be compelling and what's very, I guess, eye opening to people.
Yeah.
I feel like Nepal is just totally out there from what anyone's kind of seen in our Western world, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different world out there for
Hmm.
sure, from what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but for you personally, as you create videos, how do you stay creative?
Um, I feel like I take a lot of inspiration, I guess, recently from music. Um, I've been lucky enough to be able to tour with Illenium, who's uh, I've admired forever, and so to be able to work with them, it's been a dream. Um, where I think my creativity is kind of expanding now is more towards trying to create in different ways. So I've recently gotten into like music production and trying to do these type of composing for the videos that I'm creating now, where it's mashing up or just being more, I guess, impactful on the music side of what I'm doing, sound design, all of that type of sense. So I think there's never a shortage of like any kind of creativity there either.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of just like overall content of what I'm creating, I get a lot of inspiration from my friends, and other like-minded creators and people that are, uh, doing good work. So I stay inspired just because I know that there's never an amount of like shortage in experiences that I can see or like what I want to portray to people. Um, I guess emotionally, like you can always make people feel totally different in whatever it is that you're making. And so I feel like music has a big impact on that. And that's why I want to expand in that sense, um, and just tell deeper stories visually, audio wise. And yeah, I'm at a cool point. I feel like I'm just starting to be like that kid in the candy shop again with music, and then
Hmm.
freaking just taking all that I learned there and putting it into the visuals. I feel like it's going to be really exciting for me. I think everyone can kind of, find ways like that can keep their creativity going too, and inspiration just flows. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said. Basically, taking experiences from different aspects of your life
Hmm.
and applying that into your video creativity. I mean, not just focusing on the creative aspect of visual
Hmm.
for video, but like you said, creating your own mixes. Because I think you did, I think it was one video I think you did for Illenium. Did you do a remix for that?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did.
It was
Yeah, and
pretty much
I
like
was
a
looking down the
full
comments.
remix.
Yeah,
Yeah. Type of, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking down
So,
the comments, and someone said, "Whoa, where can I find this remix?" And you put, "Oh, I made it."
I made
So
it.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, that is awesome."
It's
You
a
know.
pretty cool feeling,
Hmm.
honestly. It's like to be able, and I think that was like a goal for me was, you know, and still one day I want to just fully be able to create something front to back. Every single aspect is mine, where there's like the music, the sounds, visuals, and just kind of own it, and that's a goal for me. And I think it's very, very possible.
Yeah, I think so
um,
too.
yeah, and it's crazy what you mentioned with, tying these other aspects together, um, in a creativity sense. I was just thinking about it earlier today, but a big inspiration for that also is, being with the Illenium team, because with Nick and his music, what they do with their tours. So this Awake tour that I'm actually documenting, um, they've taken, all these different type of aspects of like live instruments, of drums and, um, guitars, taikos, and then the visual, like all the CGI that goes into it. It's all to provide this big experience for the viewer. Um, just ties perfectly into like how you can always expand your creativity. Like there's no limit to like what you can combine overall to create this, immersive experience for whoever's watching your work. So they've been very, I guess, inspirational in that sense. And I think kind of planted in my head this whole, you can create your music for this too. So, um, yeah, I'm just excited to see where it all goes for everyone now.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're around other creative people, and I think even more so ones that are kind of outside of
Hmm.
what you do,
Yes.
it really
Yeah.
strengthens your creativity for
It's
sure.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
So when you are creating these documentaries, because I know you want to get more into documentaries, um,
Hmm.
what is your process? What do you look for when you get there? What do you plan beforehand on what you know you want to shoot? Can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah. Well, so I guess the most recent example I should talk about is with the Illenium, like sort of type of mini docs that I'm doing now. Um, I definitely a bit of pre-planning kind of goes into it. There's definitely some kind of idea that has to form with me before I get there and, start doing my thing. And so, for examples, I've done three. I'm working on. I've actually got probably about six total videos coming out with them, but the first three, um, have kind of had these themes to them, or these ideas of what I wanted to kind of document in that specific episode. Um, so for the first episode with Shanghai, with his series that you can watch on his YouTube channel, really kind of covers Nick's, uh, reason of why he's got into music, and like why he's, um, so passionate about what he does, and a bit of like the travel, I guess, idea behind what he's doing, and that ties in perfectly with what I do.
Mm.
Um, so I thought about that beforehand, and when I talked with him to kind of get that story out of him, I kind of planned a bit of what I knew one wanted to be head, or wanted to be said. So I had it kind of playing in my head for a bit of time, and then just executing it, and then finally pushing it out, um, was how the process went. Um, and then thinking forward to the next episodes, they all just kind of have a different twist of like what his story is.
Hmm.
Um, and that's my goal, I think, with the entirety of the series, is to give a spectrum of Nick as an artist, what he is, why he does what he does, um, all the experiences that have come from it, and just the very, I guess, more depth to it than just these, hype up festival type of videos that you see all the time, that show only the good times and don't show the whole process, and show, um, the behind the scenes stuff.
Mm.
So back to your question, I think a lot of, yeah, I definitely do a lot of planning in my head beforehand. Just trying to think of compelling stories to tell, or things that might be overlooked normally, and trying to convey that into an overall video.
Hmm.
That's usually, most of the time, that's through narrative, through visuals and through this combination of, uh, just hype editing, I guess you could call it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the overall goal is to make people connect and emotionally be affected by my work. Um, and a lot of the times they connect with stories. And so when people get deeper looks into things, it's fun and it's a good experience for everyone, I guess.
Yeah. So I know you kind of touched upon your why and why you do it, but I'll just ask it again. For you currently right now, why do you continue to film and do what you do?
I think I've been thinking about this for, the last couple of weeks and actually writing them down too. But I've always kind of stood for wanting to improve myself, wanting to improve my life and better my situation, my work in some ways and be always growing. Um, and so most of the time, I think that entails uh, being an inspiration in some sense where I know that if I can do what I want to do and grow, then it doesn't like there's no difference between me and someone else who was in my position, you know, earlier to do the same thing. Um, and so I really always think back to, I guess, my early days when I'm just like, I just feel so lucky to be here, And I know for a fact there's people that went through the same feelings that I had of just not knowing what I want to do with my life or not having any clue of what's going on. Um, and so I think my goal is just to keep doing what I'm doing because the best thing I can do is to be an example, and just to be proud of myself in some way. So um, if that helps other people, then that's just huge, and if that can affect people and just like connect with anyone, that's the overall goal.
Hmm. Because
Yeah.
you never know who you're actually influencing and affecting
Yeah.
through your work,
Hmm.
but maybe it's just that one person to be influenced, and maybe they're on that line of whether they want to go full in onto filmmaking or stick with their job, and maybe that video that you made really pushed them over that
Yeah.
edge and now they're doing what they love to do. So
Yeah.
you never know.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
very cool, man. Yeah.
So, two more questions, but just want to say I really appreciate you being on this show because you've been providing some awesome content, and I know like everyone listening right now is gonna love it or is loving it as they're listening to it. Um, but
Yeah.
the first question is, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, that you wish you would have known back then?
One of the biggest things I think that I struggled with, or a younger me, was just overthinking. And so the advice that I would give myself is just to, be quiet that voice in your head that's questioning, quiet that voice that doubts, that thinks that you're not good enough or like that you won't be able to make this happen. Just tell it to stop because it's so much more peaceful when you're, just going with things and flowing, um, and not creating more stress for yourself when you overthink and doubt. Um, that's a big one and actually something I still practice now because it never actually goes away. I feel like it just kind of changes with your situation and whether you improve, you just have different doubts. So yeah, as a young, I guess, uh, person who was very just anxious and overthinking everything all the time, I would just tell myself to relax and just trust the process and trust that things always work out. And I think that goes for everyone,
Hmm.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. We,
Thanks.
we always have that voice in our head, like you said,
Yeah.
kind
Hmm.
of second guessing things, but deep down in our gut, we kind of know that's something that we should do, whatever it is, and we just got to pursue it.
Most of the time, if you're feeling that you shouldn't do something, or if the voice in your head is telling you not to, you probably should because it's, something that you only grow from it and you only challenge yourself. And it's the things that makes us uncomfortable that, progress us. Um, yeah, and I've been lucky enough to kind of keep that close and just guide a lot of what I do from that. So yeah.
So what's in the future of Nainoa? What do you have planned? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I've kind of shared the projects, the big projects that I've moving forward. That's going to be like, I guess for the immediate future, a big chunk of everything I'm doing. So it's that series with Sam himself, doing that whole travel series and episodic thing, and then hopefully working more with Illenium, doing more of this type of mini documentary type of content. Moving forward creatively, hopefully you'll see more music stuff from me possibly, and tying that in with film also. And yeah, man, it's going to be good times always.
Yeah.
And just growing and expanding in what we create. I definitely want to get into some kind of, I guess, full length documentary soon sometime, but that's in the future. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. And yeah, I'm just going to keep creating, keep doing what I do.
Yeah. One step at a time,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you again. You have provided some gold to this podcast, and for all of you listening right now, I hope you appreciated what Nainoa had to say, because he took the time to sit here with me and all of you. And so thank you, Nainoa, and I wish you all the best in your filmmaking career.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was a great chat. Hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Definitely. Thanks again for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'll be placing Nainoa's social media links in the show notes so you can stay connected. And if you got great content out of this episode and know someone that can benefit from it, please share it. So thanks again for joining in, and until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.